Hey, what's up, folks? Matt and Ryan here. DFS 5-pack again. Clearly, there's no DFS to talk about, although I'm going to rep DraftKings today just as maybe in my mind, like I'll pretend like there's DFS to play and there's sports to watch, even though there isn't. We've been doing these lists the last week or so, and we've done like rap songs and movies and TV characters and stuff like that. Throw it out. If there's anything you guys want us to talk about, we're clearly bored like a lot of you guys. I think we're going to do some, probably not today, but like overrated and underrated athletes. I want to do like best movie TV, like fight scenes or like badass characters, but we're down for whatever if it makes sense. Throw in the comments section, DM us, anything like that. I know we get a bunch of DMs from people just saying they're glad we're doing something because they're bored as hell. We just like talking because we are also bored as hell. So thanks for whoever's watching.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching. We're definitely going to keep making these lists. You are more of a movie buff than I am, so you love the movie lists. We'll keep doing as many as we can. Hopefully mix in some sports stuff soon. Well, this is sports and movies, so it's kind of the best of both worlds. This list was definitely not as hard for me as the one yesterday, simply because there are a ton more rap songs that I love than their sports movies that are even out. So it was just a lot easier for me. Obviously, there were a couple tough decisions. Go on.
Yeah, I was saying like the first 7 were easy, and then I had like 30 to choose from for the last 3.
Yeah, I actually don't know how many we're going to have that are the same. I think a couple of staples will be in there. I'm interested and I'm excited to go over this with you.
I think we're going to have 3 for sure. And then my guess is somewhere like if I was making the Vegas odds on this one, it'd be 3.5 would be the over under. Because I think I know 3 that we're going to have. And then like coincidentally, we might have a 4th.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Okay. And I'll start with one that I know we're going to have. You brought it up last week. It's number 2 on my list, but although they're not really ranked in order, but Major League, like obviously it's one of your favorite movies. Clearly it's going to be one of your sports movies. I could watch it over and over again. We've already talked about it when we did the movie thing last week. So I'm going to say I will bet all of our dogs' lives that one's on there for you too.
How could it not be? It was only a matter of whether it was 1 or 2 for me because it's just we're talking about sports, but it's number 1 because it's everything I love about a movie. It's like, arguably my favorite movie of all time. So lock it in.
Yeah, it's an awesome movie. I'm sure most of you guys have seen it. If you're a sports fan, especially if you're a baseball fan, it's got good actors. It's got good characters. It's funny. It is a comedy, but it's just dramatic enough that it can even pull at your heartstrings a little bit that way. It covers you on most angles. It's got classic lines. I mean, what's not to like?
Agreed.
All right, so I'm going to go to the next one up, which is my favorite, I think, of the football. I have 2 favorite football sports movies, but I know I brought it up last week and you liked it as well, and that's The Program.
Yeah, I have the Varsity Blues and The Program as honorable mentions for me.
You didn't have The Program in your top 10. Okay, that was one I thought we would agree on. Maybe it's going to be the under then. I think that, I don't know, those are my 2 favorite football movies, but I do think that we hit on rap songs yesterday about how music has a way to strike you because of a time in your life or a moment or a party or a vacation or whatever it might be. Like Varsity Blues for me, which is also up here for me, came out when I was in college, and we just happened to watch it and recite it and say the same lines over and over again. I think The Program to me is a slightly better movie, and that's my favorite of the football genre.
I get that. I've actually got 2 other football movies in here. One football movie, I don't know how I completely forgot about this movie in my top 10 movie list. But if I could go back, although that was a desert island list, so maybe not. That's, I think, why I didn't have this movie on there. But my second favorite sports movie, my favorite football movie by a good amount, Any Given Sunday. I love that movie. Just a classic. I've seen it 10 plus times. Great cast. I just love everything about that movie. I'm sure you've seen it, right?
I've seen it, but it's a great cast, no questions about it, but it doesn't even like crack my top 5 football movies.
Okay, fair enough. That's like to each their own, as the old saying goes.
In our taste in like entertainment is a little bit different. Like, well, there's some similarities. Again, our favorite genre of music is going to be hip hop. We like comedies and action and drama and all the things that go along with it, but we're just a little bit different on what we find funny, for example.
Yes.
Like our comedy list movies would be a little bit different. So I get that. So I've already got 3 down: The Program, Major League, and Varsity Blues. Again, for Varsity Blues, for me, man, like it came out when I was a freshman in college. It was the first movie I saw in the theater when I lived in Minneapolis. And it's funny. So as an 18, 19-year-old guy, being able to recite all the Billy Bob lines and everything like that, it's way up there for me. It's just definitely one I can watch over and over again. In fact, when I sold my 300 DVDs this summer and like to one guy who just like collects them, I took out about 15 of my favorites to hold on to, and that was one of them.
I get that, man. Like you talked about, brings you back to a good time. It is a classic movie, so I get all the reasons it's up there. You know, it might crack my top 10 if I had to really had time to evaluate this list, but it's right there. The next movie, which I'm sure we're both going to have, this is number 3 for me. Another movie with an amazing cast, White Men Can't Jump. Just an all classic movie. One of the, it's not even about sports, but it's just one of the best sports movies ever because of
I think that would make it about sports.
What'd you say?
I think it is about sports.
Well, it is about sports, but it's not like about like, you know, a team per se. It's just it's kind of a different, takes it from a different angle. Great cast, great movie, funny. It's got everything you want in a movie. I love it.
The team of Harrelson and Snipes, they play off of each other very well, and it's funny. Yeah. They have good chemistry between the two of them. I didn't really like love the movie Money Train way back in the day, but like those two are good in there together. Their humor works together as kind of guys who can both do dramatic and comedy. The writing's good. The Yo Mama jokes. I mean, it's just funny. And like the last scene when Woody Harrelson finally dunks, like tell me you don't like watch that every single time it's up there. And just like, it's just when they're playing what are the guys they play at the end? Doc and
I can't even remember their names.
Oh, man, now that's going to make me mad. I'm definitely going to go back and look that up when Blake and Doc are at the – doesn't matter. I'll think of it later, but it's a great movie.
It's classic. So it sounds like you have 4 down.
Yep.
So I'm going to go again with another basketball movie. I don't think you're going to have this one, but this is another movie I love, classic movie. He Got Game. Denzel Washington, Ray Allen. I don't want to say it's like a great cast, but I'm a big Ray Allen fan. I was growing up. So it's another movie I've seen a ton of times. I love the storyline. It's got a lot of things that I like about a movie. So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I like it. It's a good movie. I think I've only seen it once, though. And so that's where, like, there's a bunch of movies. I was actually looking through sports lists after this because I put down, like, my first favorite 7 that were, like, no-brainers for me. And then I'm writing down like all these honorable mentions. I'm like, obviously everybody likes Field of Dreams, but do I like it enough to make my top 10? And that was one that was up there for, you know, a lot of people, but I've only seen it once. The same thing with like Hoosiers. I like Hoosiers, but I've only seen it once and it was like 20 years ago. It's hard for it to be one of my favorite sports movies when I've only watched it once. Raging Bull, saw it once, thought it was all right, but I don't think it's as great as a lot of other people did. So I definitely spent some time looking through this. Miracle. Thought it was enjoyable when I watched it, but I've only watched it once. So it's hard to be at the top compared to some of these other movies you've seen dozens of times when you've only seen it once.
No doubt about that. I couldn't agree with you more. So, all right, we both got 4 down. What's your 5th?
All right, I'm going to go way back, and this is one critically acclaimed, older movie. Everybody's seen it. I'm putting the Rocky franchise down, but specifically, like if I had to pick one, it's another one. I've seen Rocky 4 8 million times, and it's one of the cheesier ones as it gets later down the series, but that's like my favorite of the group. I've probably only seen the original Rocky, you know, outside of the last fight scene, like once in its entirety. You know, I've probably watched the last fight scene a few times, but I've seen all of Rocky 4 like a dozen times.
I've seen the Rockies, but all of them like once or maybe twice. I mean, I get the nostalgia about them and I like them, but definitely not in my top 10.
Yeah, the original one is a great
Sylvester
movie.
Stallone fan.
Okay. I mean, I don't think he's like this great actor. He wrote and directed like at the first one, though.
I respect him.
Yeah.
I'm not like the biggest fan, you know?
Well, he doesn't really, I mean, if you're looking for actors with range and the ability to do a lot of different things that you consider great actors, that's not going to be it. The work that he put into the original that made his career, super impressive, deserves a lot of respect. But like, I don't look at Sylvester Stallone as a guy that can play a lot of different roles. I watched the Cheeseball movie a couple months ago, Over the Top. It's his arm wrestling movie. It is as corny and 80s as any movie that you have ever seen. If I had to tell you to go watch one movie that you guaranteed you know the decade, that would be it.
That's hilarious.
So I put down the Rocky franchise, but if I had to pick one, I'd actually say Rocky 4.
All right, cool. The next one is also a classic movie, not quite as classic as Rocky, because really what is. Older movie, not as old as Rocky. I'm interested to know if you're going to have this one on your list. I think this is a great movie. You know how much I love baseball, so A League of Their Own.
No, it's not even in my honorable mention. I liked it. I saw it as a kid. There's a lot of baseball movies that I like that didn't quite make the list. Field of Dreams, For Love of the Game, and a couple others, but was never a favorite movie of mine. There's some great lines from it, and it's a good film. It's just not a favorite of mine.
Okay, fair. I love like old school baseball stuff. I just love anything baseball, as you know. That's another movie with a great cast, and that's kind of a theme for me. Tom Hanks,
Madonna, Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah, Rosie O'Donnell, that's who I was thinking of. Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell. They play really well off each other.
Gina Davis.
Yeah.
The chick from Point Break. The chick from Point Break, Lori Petty is her name, plays Kit.
So really good cast. And again, kind of shines a light on something that had never really been talked about before. So give the respect where respect is due, and that is number 5 for me.
Yeah, I guess it lost me when you saw girls hitting the ball 450 feet. I'm like, they weren't doing that. There's no way.
That's true.
Because most guys can't hit the ball 450 feet, and we're built for something like that. So, no, it's a good film, though. All right, so the difference to me, like when you look through some of these lists and you talk about them, is like, what do you consider a sports movie, too? So I have Happy Gilmore up here, and I can see the argument for why people wouldn't consider it like a sports movie, that it's a comedy, but the whole movie's about golf, and it actually starts off being about hockey. So for me, it's a sports movie. It's my favorite Adam Sandler movie. The early Adam Sandler movies were great until, like, I forget at what point he just started mailing it in and literally just taking his $10 million and not even trying. But like the early Adam Sandler movies are really funny. Everything in the last 15 years, other than the original Grown Ups, kind of sucks. And I heard that new movie he came out, the serious one.
Yeah, I did.
I heard it was awesome. Oh, you didn't like it?
I did not like it personally because I'm a sports bettor, right? I thought a lot of stuff was like unrealistic. I also am not a big Adam Sandler fan, like similar to Sylvester Stallone. And what I'll say about like Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison, like they're classics, right? And they're hilarious. But when I first watched them, like I thought they were a lot funnier than like they are now. Some movies don't lose that for me. Like, I think a lot of I don't know why. Adam Sandler just like kind of annoys me.
The new, like all Adam Sandler stuff other than Grown Ups for the last like 15 years is pretty terrible. So it's hard to remember for me. Like sometimes it's a reminder that Billy Madison, The Wedding Singer, Big Daddy, like those were good. And then he legitimately, it seemed like he stopped trying. Like he's like, so I don't have to do anything and I can just make a ton of money and just hang out with my buddies. And like, I get that from a person. Like if I could just come on here and do a 30-minute podcast on DFS and like make big money without doing the articles and doing all the social media stuff that goes along with it, I would love that. Like Jim Rome used to say, if I could just do the Rome Minute and make as much money, I would happily do that.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. Another guy I love, Jim Rome, but similar to your Happy Gilmore, which is, it's got to be considered a sports movie. I have another movie that's probably even less of a sports movie than that, but in the same realm. And this just has to be in the top 10.
I think I might have it. Go for it.
Kingpin.
Oh, I thought about Kingpin. It's on here. And I do consider it a sports movie because even though I don't really think of bowling as a sport, it's considered a sport. So it's got to be considered a sports movie. I got it right there, though. I definitely was looking at Kingpin.
Just a hilarious movie. Hilarious plot. God, that's one of the great cast. Just another classic, man. You talk about these movies that like Kingpin almost made my Desert Island movie. Not because it's one of the 10 best movies ever, but because that is, if I think of movies that I can just put on and watch, that's one of the first ones that comes up.
Yeah, it's a good one. Bill Murray, Woody Harrelson, Randy Quaid, all guys I think are funny. I mean, Bill Murray's just amazing. Anybody out there who's on the chive knows what I'm talking about. He's awesome. It's a good one. I thought about putting it up there. I'm going to skip down a couple to a one that I put up there that's also, is it a sports movie? I mean, it is, but it's more because it's just funny. Dodgeball.
Yeah, I thought about Dodgeball. Honorable mention for me. I didn't know I didn't know how much I wanted to go there, but I firmly agree with that.
Yeah, I love Dodgeball. It makes me laugh. Really brought Jason Bateman's career to a resurrection as the announcer. And it's crazy how small role like that, where him and the guy who plays Lumbergh from Office Space as the announcer, brought Jason Bateman from like a teen actor who had like his career completely fallen off to back to like now he's in Ozark, for example, which is killing it on Netflix right now. What's that?
He's like the star of Ozark.
Yeah, he is. He's the star of Ozark. He's been in, a bunch of movies, The Horrible Bosses, I mean, tons of other things. And
So
that small role there actually like resurrected his career.
yeah, it's very interesting. He's great in that movie. Another guy, like, and I'll say I like him more than I like Adam Sandler, but I don't love him like other people do, is Ben Stiller.
Okay.
I don't know why. I just like I feel I don't his humor just is a little like grainy for me, I think. And my favorite, if I had to think of my favorite Ben Stiller movie, it's Heavyweights.
Never even seen that.
Really?
For me, the best Ben Stiller movie is Meet the Parents, but it's not because of Ben Stiller. It's an ensemble cast. And I think the writing is tremendous and the jokes are great. But Owen Wilson, Robert De Niro, like they all play off one another. They're all funny, but it wasn't because of Ben Stiller. I think a lot of people.
That's how Heavyweights is. I'm shocked you haven't seen it. It's like one of his first. I don't know if it's one of his first movies, but it's before all those. It's about It's about like kids going to fat camp. It is hilarious.
Now that you said that, I've heard of it, but I don't think
I've
seen it.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard of it.
That's the thing with with him, like in Meet the Parents. I feel like a million people could have done his role, but like I don't think you could take old school and take Vince Vaughn and Will Ferrell out of there. Like Luke Wilson's role could have been done by a bunch of different people. Like Ben Stiller could have been Luke Wilson's role, but like you couldn't take Vince Vaughn and like Will Ferrell out of there, and that movie just wouldn't have been as funny because it was made perfectly for them. Whereas Ben Stiller to me is relatively interchangeable, and a lot like you talked about Danny McBride. Like I feel like I like him like more in small bits. Like I liked him in Happy Gilmore. It's just the orderly.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And that's how. So like that's what it is, in like that's how he is in Heavyweights too. He's not like the star of the movie. He's got a nice role, but he's not like a star. I couldn't agree more.
Going back to Dodgeball though, also I think one of my favorite parts of the movie is when Vince Vaughn sits down with Lance Armstrong. You remember? And he's like talking about what's wrong. And he's like, sure. And then this happened to me and I got cancer, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, but I'm sure what you're going through is tough too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know why. I just saw that like a couple weeks ago. Must have been on TV.
All right. Let's see here. I got 3 left. How about you?
I got 4 left. So I will go right now. Kind of in that same, not in the same vein in that it's like Kingpin, but I thought about this movie too, and I'm going to give it to the whole franchise, Mighty Ducks.
Ooh, I haven't seen any of those in so long. I saw them when I was a kid, but I don't think I've watched one in 20 years.
See, same. I would maybe less than that, but I also don't watch movies nearly as much as you do. So I can say that about quite a few movies. And I wanted to give it respect because there's multiple movies in that set that are really good, especially the first one, which was kind of like. I don't want to say I grew up on that, but that was like a staple in my childhood.
I got that. All right. So this one, I feel like you probably like it, but since we're so far down, you haven't made your list. And we talked about a bunch of those movies hitting on the racial aspect when we did desert island movies. Remember the Titans?
It is in there for me.
It is?
Yes.
Okay. So you were yet to get there yet. I think it's an amazing movie. Again, another one. Love Denzel. I think Denzel's incredible. It's also got 2 of your favorite characters from 2 of your favorite shows. Opie from Sons of Anarchy playing Gary Bertier. And then Jules, who was, what's his name in The Wire?
I'm drawing a blank. I'm bad with characters.
Antoine Barksdale or something like that?
Yeah, Avon.
Avon Barksdale. Okay, I'm I haven't seen that show, and I've only watched it a couple times, so I figured you could get there if I gave you the assist.
Yes, and thank you for the alley. I ooped it in. I'm a little disappointed I need that. But yeah, definitely it made my list. I have another football movie on here, so I had 3 football movies total. But Remember the Titans is still an all-time classic.
My biggest issue with that movie, and I'm sure most of you guys watching this are Monster sports fans, hence the reason you follow our channel and we do DFS, is the last game when they're down by 6 points with 15 seconds to go. And the opposing coach starts yelling, they're going long. Duh. They got to score a touchdown to win the game, and you have to go 75 yards. And he yells it out like he's figuring out this play. I'm of course they're going long. They literally have to score and go 75 yards with one play. Obviously, they're going for the end zone on this one. You didn't need to call that out, buddy.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not gonna argue that there is some like corny or cheesiness in that movie. I think it's a great movie, but I think it could have been better personally.
Okay.
So I guess that's my only thing.
It's
No,
got
I
some
don't.
powerful scenes too. Like obviously when Gary Bertier gets in the car accident and is playing one of
Yes.
my all-time favorite songs, Fire and Rain by James Taylor. Like in that part being based on the truth. Like that actually really happened. Not exactly like they showed in the movie, but that is something that happened in real life is kind of like that's a powerful movie scene.
Well, he's a great character in that movie.
Yeah.
He's just, inspirational. He's a great character. He's just a great guy all the way around.
Yeah, when he kind of like sees the light, you know what I mean? And then like all of a sudden like he kicks his buddy Ray off the team or
Yes.
the captain or whatever, and you're like that point, like again, obviously racism in America still exists, clearly, right? Like it's better than it was 50 years ago, but it is still clearly there, like in present culture showing it off even a little bit more. But like watching like his eyes open and like realizing like and then trying to get his mom and girlfriend to like understand and stuff like that. Like that was just to me, that was really powerful.
Very, very powerful. Kind of brings you back to that time.
Okay.
So while we're on the subject of football movies, I'm going to go to the other one, which is sandwiched in between Any Given Sunday and Remember the Titans for me. And I brought this up on I think it was an honorable mention for me in our top 10 Desert Island movies, and that's Friday Night Lights. I love that movie. When I think about high school football, that's what I think about. So many great characters in that movie. Not a great cast, but just great characters in the movie. Boobie Miles, the whole transformation of the team. I love that movie.
I've only seen it once and it was a long time ago. So that's why I can't remember a lot about it. I will say, kind of joking around what we talked about yesterday, I've heard that that book is incredible and that is something I should read. And that definitely that's the book is better type of situation. You know, whether you talk about the show, whether you talk about the movie, like the books have been out for a while and they're all based off that. And apparently it's incredible. So maybe what's one I should go back and watch or read, I mean.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that. Certainly right now.
That would be a good one for you because, like you said, you made it a goal of yours. You wanted to start like reading a book here and there.
Yes.
I mean, that would be right up your alley. You love the movie. It's about sports. That'd be like a perfect starter book for you. Yeah.
When we're done here, I'm gonna like look online and try to maybe order it.
Okay, so we got a bunch of football movies on here. I have The Program, Varsity Blues, Remember the Titans. I have one more. Clearly, our football movies are a little bit different. Rudy. I love the movie Rudy. Honestly, I guess maybe I love 5 minutes of the movie Rudy. For me, it is legitimately like the ultimate guy cry moment. Like the two scenes where they start putting the jerseys down, like I want Rudy to dress for me, coach. And then at the very, very end, when they start calling him out and the big lineman starts chanting and they finally get him in the game and they don't block him and he gets the sack. I mean, that one will get me to get a little teary-eyed every single time. I could watch it 5 times in one day. It would probably happen 5 times in a row.
That's in like the Field of Dreams category for me, but behind Field of Dreams. So I get it. I'm not surprised you went there, just not for me.
All right, what do you got next? I got one left, so I think
I only have one left.
Let it rip.
Okay, so I don't think you're gonna have this movie, and this is not a movie I've seen a ton of times, but I've seen it a few times, and it's different than any other movie. Hoop Dreams. Are you familiar?
Funny, I've never seen it, but so I told you I was like looking up lists of like movies, like top ones. Like Caddyshack was one that just missed for me. Love and Basketball. I mean, that's not one for me, but we've all had wives and girlfriends that have made us watch this one a couple different times.
No doubt.
Moneyball was good. Like I said, Miracle. I've never seen Chariots of Fire. A couple of these I had never seen. Slapshot never really did it for me. I didn't like $1 Million Baby. I'd never seen Ali. The Wrestler was good. I did like that. Never seen Pride of the Yankees. Foxcatcher got really weird for me, so I had trouble liking it. Bull Durham's good. Rocky. Raging Bull's good. Number 1, Hoop Dreams.
Wow.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, I feel like it's right up your alley too. It's a documentary. It's nonfiction.
I like nonfiction.
It's before, so like nowadays, all this stuff is online. They make shows about this stuff, about the top recruits. You know what I'm talking about. If you want to know any information about anyone, you can look online. This came out in 1994, so I was young, but it kind of brought you inside a world that otherwise you had never seen before. And
Okay.
I was always into that stuff, like college basketball. It's about two high school basketball players, and they're like trying to play in college, etc. It's a great movie. It's a classic. Again, now that we're talking about it, I want to go back and watch it.
Okay, it sounds like one I probably would like. You're right. I'm big on nonfiction. We discussed that yesterday when we talked about books. Like my taste in books, I've never been a big fiction guy outside like those Spencer novels, but I like nonfiction. I like if I'm gonna read, like I almost want to learn something. And it's like if I want to be entertained, I might as well just watch something. Like I know, like I talked about it, like Nikki can like super get into like reading, and like she would rather do that than watch something. Like I've just never really loved nonfiction, or fiction, but I love reading nonfiction. So same thing.
I'm with you. I like nonfiction too, so I think you'd really enjoy this.
Okay, so my last one, and this is a tough one to put up here. It went between a lot of them, and we'll do some honorable mention stuff after this. Bad News Bears, and kind of like a mishmash of the original, which I watched when I was a kid, and I liked it a lot. And I love the remake with Billy Bob Thornton because I think he's hilarious, and I love Billy Bob Thornton. So take the original, take the remake, take whatever you want. I like both of them. I just really enjoyed this story.
I've seen it, but it's been a while. I like Billy Bob Thornton. Interesting. I'm trying to like Billy Bob Thornton's the coach in Friday Night Lights also.
Yep, I know.
And
that's like the only thing I remember from that movie.
Okay. So, all right. So Bad News Bears, again, not going to make it for me, but I completely understand. They're just classics, right?
Yeah. And I haven't seen like the original one since I was young. And I just remember I would, and back then we didn't have as many options for what you had, right? Like even if you had cable, you had maybe 40 channels to pick movies from, but because it was a movie, it was on all the time and I caught it over and over again. I really liked it when I was a kid.
And like for me, and I was just thinking about this and making these lists has made me thought about this. A lot of the movie, like going back to that time when it was me and my sister watching TV and there was one remote and there was only one TV for us to watch because like that was the room we sat in. Like she was the one deciding. So like that's just how it was. So
that's why I've seen Bring It On 30 times because when I lived with those 8 people, 2 of them were girls. And if they would get the TV room, like I had to watch Bring It On like 5 times one summer. So I actually know that movie through no real wanting to actually know that movie of my own.
That's funny. I think about like The Breakfast Club is a movie I've seen like so many times. It's just not of any choice of my own.
You've seen it 10, might as well make it 12. Okay, so I think that covers up the list. What you were kind of mentioning is like making you think about this kind of gets like you start thinking about some of the other stuff that you like. So for example, after we got done with the rap list last night, I was making dinner for my kids and I got LL Cool J going on YouTube. So I started out with Mama Said Knock You Out, but then it brought me to what's actually my favorite song of his, which is I'm Bad. And I think I've probably listened to it half a dozen times since last night. And he's got a couple other songs that are older that I love, but I hadn't listened to any LL Cool J in so long.
So funny, I did the same thing with Too Short like this morning when I went for my walk. I love Getting It, but there's other songs I love too, like I'm a Playa. It's just a classic. I went on like a Too Short kind of binge for just like 20 minutes, but still it was fun.
Definitely, because it gets your mind rolling to some of the stuff. I was listening to some other like old school hip hop this morning that I hadn't listened to in a while. Because I'll be honest, like I listen to mostly music on YouTube. And YouTube's great because if there's like 30, 40 songs you listen to, it like basically makes mini little playlists for you. So if I'm going to shave and hop in the shower, and I know it's going to take about 15 minutes to get dressed and stuff like that, boom, like 3 or 4 songs in a row that I like. Or if I'm going running, just put on one of those playlists and it plays my favorite songs. What was really funny is when I ran the other day, it intermixed like a workout type of playlist with like slower music. And when I took a picture of my run, one of our customers, Patrick Crone, said, "What the hell are you listening to?" Because you can see the picture of the video, and it was George Michael. And I'm like, trust me, I did not want to finish my run with George Michael's One More Try, but that's what YouTube auto-generated for me, so I just got stuck with it.
I'm so picky with my music, especially when I'm working out. Like, I will just change the song if I don't like it. I have bad music ADD also, so it's a problem.
Sure, it's tough to change for me. Like, if I'm on mile 6 of my 6-mile run, and I'm really trying to push it because I always try to close hard, like the idea of like sliding my phone open and picking a song seems like a lot of work. So I usually just deal with whatever's up.
I get that.
Even though I'd love to put on Puff Daddy's Victory, because that's to me is a great workout song. Like if I need that extra little energy, that's one that gets me. So a couple of honorable mentions that I think we both have gone through. Field of Dreams. I haven't watched it in so long that like I feel like it just couldn't make my list for me. My dad made me go see that when I was a kid. And I was like, this movie sounds stupid because I'm probably like 8 years old. It was good. It's a good movie. Classic movie.
Classic movie. It was honorable mention for me.
Okay. Tin Cup. Kevin Costner, I think we all know, is in like 10 different sports movies. And even though I like golf, I don't love golf. I love the movie Tin Cup. That was right up there for me as one that got close.
I get that. Not for me, but I completely understand.
All right. And then I'll tell you guys a funny story about the movie For Love of the Game. That's another Kevin Costner one. So it's a good opportunity for people to make fun of me. I went to Milwaukee to visit some friends for her 21st birthday. So her boyfriend and I have been good friends for a while. It's my friends Emily and Eric. So we go out for Emily's birthday. We go out that night. Emily's really hungover the next day. So Eric and I go to the bar at like 11 in the morning, and we don't go home until about 4 in the morning. So needless to say, might have had a few beverages, and everybody else passes out. I watched For Love of the Game and proceed to drink about 8 more beers and started crying a little bit. And be like, "What are you crying?" I'm like, "I miss playing baseball so much." Maybe it might have been the 35 drinks I had that day or whatever it was, but I really started like thinking about playing baseball as a kid and how much I missed it. And like that For Love of the Game movie, like again, many, many dozens of drinks into the day, really got to me and kind of make me feel like emotional because of how much I just miss playing baseball.
Interesting. I will definitely put that in my back pocket when you are annoying the hell out of me.
All right. Any other honorable mention ones you had?
No, but just to change real quick, kind of because we're on the subject of sports, there's a show on Netflix called All American. Have you seen it?
It just came out. I've had some people that I talked to just as kind of killing time here in quarantine tell me to watch it, but it probably isn't going to be coming to me anytime soon. I'm just started a show last night called Banshee, which is like 4 seasons, so I'm going to watch that for a while.
I think we've talked. I think I've asked you about Banshee in the past because that's a show that like you ask a lot of like people who like Sons of Anarchy. That's like a niche type show that people like.
Okay. Have you seen it?
I haven't. It's cartoon, isn't it?
I like it.
Isn't it cartoon?
No, not at all.
Okay, go ahead. There's something I didn't like about it, but I'm confusing it with something else.
Yeah, it's not a cartoon in the slightest. It's definitely more action. Remember that guy, Dan, it's like I told you I used to work with that I'm good buddies with. He plays in a bunch of our big money fantasy leagues. He's been telling me for years to watch that. So last night as I was cruising around Prime, I'm like, oh, shit, I forgot all about this. Let's give it a whirl.
I remember bringing it up to you and you telling me that your buddy Dan has told you forever to watch it.
Let's see here. Waterboy. What'd you think of Waterboy?
I'm not a huge Adam Sandler fan, so right. Yeah, I get it. But like, just wasn't going to be there for me. It just wasn't going to make it for me.
All right. So have you seen the original Longest Yard?
No.
Okay. I actually like the remake of it with Adam Sandler. It's another movie of his that I like. I saw the original, but like 30 years ago, so I don't really remember it. Blue Chips was one I considered, but I haven't seen that in for so long either. Like I can't really remember.
Blue Chips made an honorable mention for me.
Okay.
The other thing I love about, or not the other thing, one thing I love about Blue Chips is like how it had NBA players in it.
Yeah. Like Penny and Shaq.
Yeah, they're more than that too. I'm gonna check this out now.
This is a good one. Miracle is another one, especially if like you're a hockey fan. I'm sure you love it, but I've only watched it once. It was good. The Fighter with Mark Wahlberg and Christian Bale is another one. I only saw it once, but I did like it a lot. I know it's a good movie and it won some awards.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I was definitely looking up Blue Chips, and yeah, the NBA players were Shaq and Penny, but there was like a ton of college coaches that were in it.
Okay.
Yeah, great movie, but again, didn't make it for me because I have only seen it a couple of times and it's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, you think of sports movies and you're like, oh, you start some of your favorites, and then you kind of forget about exactly how many there are. There are tons of them. Like the fact that there's a list out there that I was looking at that's top 50, Like, think about that. Like, really wrap your mind around the fact that there's hundreds and hundreds of sports movies that you can choose from. And there's like other ones that didn't even make the list. Like Nikki many years ago made me watch The Champ with, I think it's John Voight. And like, that's another one that, Brian's song. I've never seen it, but apparently it's great.
Same.
So, I mean, there's a ton of different options for you out there. So, all right. That'll do it for today. Again, guys, we'll continue to make more lists like this. We need ideas, though. I'm bored. You're bored. Most of y'all are bored. If you have no work like we do, like it's going to be a long time.
And the other thing is, like, for me, and I don't want, like, you don't have, like, much broader interest than I do, but you do have broader interest than I do. Like,
sure.
My interests are really focused on, like, sports and then, like, whatever TV show I'm in, Sam. Like, it's, taking – I'm not saying you have, like, the broadest of horizons because you're really into sports too, but you do have slightly broader horizons than I do.
Yeah, like when sometimes, like, if we join up on these Skype calls, I know you're listening to sports stuff, whereas I might be listening to political commentary, stand-up comedy, for example. Yeah, I got you.
Exactly.
I enjoy cutting my nails and stuff like no.
So just keep bringing the list ideas, and we'll keep doing them. And if you guys have ideas, get them to us.
Yeah, like I could do my top 10 comedians, but I don't think you could probably even get to 10, right?
No.
You'd be like Dave Chappelle, and I'm out.
10, but like it wouldn't be like,
it's not top 10, it's the only 10.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I consider myself a connoisseur of stand-up comedy.
Yeah, you love comedy like that.
I love stand-up comedy. I think it is the purest form of laughter. One person up there telling jokes. I think it'd be fun to do like an amateur night of that. Now, I don't think I have the right kind of brain that could write like my own even like 5-minute stick. But I feel like most people would be scared to go up there. I wouldn't be scared to go on stage and tell jokes. I just need somebody else to write the jokes for me, which is probably the harder part.
For sure. That is, half the battle.
Yep.
For me, I like going to stand-up. I think it's a fun night.
Yep.
It's a fun thing to do. I don't really love watching it on TV, except if I'm like really into whoever's doing it.
Yeah, you have to pay attention. I think that's where a lot of people struggle with stand-up is we're in that world of we're on our phones playing with things. And if you don't pay attention to stand-up, it's not going to be funny. And that's hard. It's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, even during Walking Dead, like last night I was doing something on my phone for like the last half of the episode, and I found myself, missing a lot of not being fully honed in on what I wanted to see. The other thing I wanted to tell you about Walking Dead before we get off, the weird thing about binging it, and this is with any show, is when the seasons change and how they've gotten a little older and stuff's changed. But for me, it's like back to back. But in real life, like when you saw it, it was probably
well, I binged the first 4 seasons because I was behind, and then I think I was up to date after that. So I've done it both ways, and I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Carl changes. I mean, there's a lot of growth in that show from a lot of characters, but probably no more so than Carl, who's like basically a baby at the beginning, and then he's like in the crew. So,
yeah, I mean, I love it. I told you before you started. I think to me, like the changing, like Daryl changes. But Daryl's Daryl pretty early on. But like
he does change though. I feel like he's gotten better.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because he's finally around people who love him and
exactly.
He's never had that. He grew up with an abusive dad and an abusive brother. And like you see the softer side of him from time to time as he becomes more human. But like the up and down of Rick Grimes as the leader of the group, I think for me, like some of his most badass moments, which you haven't even seen many of them yet. A lot of them are still coming. Like to me, the maturation and the ups and downs of Rick Grimes like makes that show.
Well, Carl is becoming like a little bit of a loose cannon too. Like he killed that, kid? What?
Killed that kid? Yeah.
He did kill that kid. Although I will say about when he killed that kid, like not gonna lie, in my head, they said for the kid to drop the gun, and he was like handing it over. Like in my mind, I was like, man, is this kid about to pull on them? So like. I get it. The point was that like he didn't draw on them and Carl just shot him. But like, I don't know. It was just interesting from my point of view.
Yep. And then that's where Rick starts to be like, yeah, I got to take a step back. Right. You know what I mean? Like they form the council, right? Because he doesn't want Carl to like, he's watching him and he's like, I don't want him to be this.
Right. Like, and like right after that episode, I think it's the first episode of season 4. And in that episode, one of the first scenes is Rick and Carl talking, and Rick's like, you should go to story time or whatever. And he's like, that's for kids. And Rick's like, yeah. And like,
You're a kid.
yeah, exactly. Like that. So you can see that's like a part of the story.
And I think where you're at right now is a slower moment of the show. And sometimes, like if you read like the Walking Dead like fan stuff, they're like, it gets kind of boring for 2 episodes. I'm like, yes, but you got to be boring every once in a while just to be a little bit more realistic. Like you can't fight for 45 minutes of every single episode. There's got to be some times where things are peaceful. Otherwise, everybody'd be dead.
What show do you talk about where you're like, you get mad because like there's no way they could survive? Like
Sons of Anarchy.
Well, yeah, but that's like Rick too. Like, I mean, you have to just take that with a grain of salt.
Sure.
But
that's why, like, I enjoy when shows like I love the suspense and the action, but when you slow it down and make it more realistic, like that show Bird Notice that I told you about, where like he's a spy. Like the first couple of seasons, it's semi-realistic, and then after a while, you're like, oh come on, like you're so far-fetched at this point. Like it was one thing, like when it was you one-on-one fighting some guy. Now you're fighting 33 people that have guns, and all you have is a slingshot. Come on.
Well, you've even said that about Walking Dead too. That like it gets, hopefully I've got a few more good seasons, which I do.
For me, there's an exact point where. So, I told you you're going to meet Negan in a couple of seasons, and he's the governor on steroids, and he's a big part of the comic books, which they took off of him, and his character is hilarious and fun and gruesome. But when you meet Negan, the show gets a little darker. And that's where some of the people that like the lighter side of The Walking Dead start to lose a little bit of the fantasy. And you're 6, 7 seasons in, so a lot of shows tend to get a little bit older, right? But then it gets a little dark for some people. Now, I like dark. I like dark. So for me, that was cool. I liked it. But for some people who like the lighter stuff, it get a little heavy for them.
Like dark how?
Gruesome.
Okay.
I mean, like
the show's pretty gruesome to begin with, but I get what you're saying. Like
more human on human violence as opposed to human on Walker.
I like that.
Yeah, so did I. But I also understood why that turns some people off. And then for me, then it gets to a point where some people thought, how it jumps around from storyline to storyline, like season per season. Some people felt like they tried to make 1 season 2 seasons. Like it took a little bit too long. And then I don't want to give anything away at this point, so I'll kind of just shut up. For you, I don't want to give it away.
Thank you. And it's perfect timing because the governor of Ohio just came on and I want to watch him.
All right. Peace out, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.